Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers enter the new year with news from Anthony Davis. Is it going to sustain them through 2023? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always free. It's never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to participate in the really great community of Lakers fans that is there, and they're talking to us. They're talking to each other. That is something that everybody can participate in. You can get involved in the show that way too, because you leave comments there. We like to use all that on the show wherever we can. So appreciate everybody's support for that channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Some lineup stuff we want to get to from Friday's win in Atlanta, a big 131-21 win over the Hawks on LeBron's birthday. LeBron's performance, 47, 10, and 9. Also something that we might want to dive into a little bit there. But let's start with the news that actually came out before that game, because it probably is the most significant thing. Anthony Davis spoke to the media, and on the one hand, we were given a lot of new information, and on the other hand, there were still some things that I at least had my hand raised with questions as to what this all means going forward.
So we learned that, first of all, he's got a bone spur in his ankle, sort of like ankle foot area, as well as a stress reaction in the navicular bone. And this was something that AD acknowledged. Surgery was potentially on the table.
Right, to remove the bone spur, I believe, specifically.
Right, and this was something that he really, really was looking to avoid. And saw a lot of different doctors for a lot of different opinions. Obviously, you're not just going to different doctors until you get the one who says you don't need to get surgery. It's just you're really getting consensus, things like that. And
right. Well, we talked about that. Why is this taking so long? Because the Lakers had said there will be an update on Monday, and then Monday there wasn't an update. This is a couple weeks ago. Then Tuesday, and then Wednesday. And it took a whole week for them to get an update, and both of us were kind of theorizing that, and this is one of the reasons we were worried, is that they were going to multiple doctors to get multiple opinions because the injury was either weird or complicated or potentially really bad.
Right. And AD has said that, off-season surgery could be a possibility, but for the time being, he's hoping to avoid surgery for this season. He said that it is feeling better so far. There is still pain there. I can read part of what he said right now. I think the next step is healing. I don't want to use timetables because if you don't meet that timetable, it's a whole different thing, but it's healing pretty quickly. And when we get back to LA, we'll do another image of the foot, see how it is healed since the last time I did it. It's really about pain. The pain is still there. I still feel a little bit, not as much as before. Then I see if it's healed properly and enough where I can go and start ramping up on the court, and we'll start that process. So, I'm sure there is an element of pain tolerance and pain management to this, but I think also if the pain is high enough, that's also going to indicate that it's not healed enough, and it actually is not safe for him short and long term to actually go out there.
Yeah, I suspect I don't think the Lakers will allow him to play until he's pain free. It was such a weird update because Lakers
had AD not have given this update, I still don't think we would know.
I don't think we know a thing. I completely agree with you. And I the way Lakers fans reacted, not that people were throwing parades and stuff, but I think generally speaking, people were pretty excited to hear the news. And on the one hand, I completely get why, and it's because we sort of were able to rule out worst case scenarios. AD didn't come out there and be like, yeah. I was looking real bad. Like I'm very concerned I'm gonna have to have surgery, or like this is gonna be something that needs to be operated on. Like the news could have been significantly worse, and we're sort of conditioned, I think, at this point, Andy, to expect the worst news when it comes to Davis. But I still don't have any clue whatsoever when he's actually going to play. So while the news could have been worse, I also don't feel like I learned a lot of there was relevant information that I still feel like I don't know.
Well, the real thing we don't know, and AD acknowledged this, is timetable. And I'm sure that he's not going to give a timetable, in part because this is an inexact thing, and also because he's well aware, as he acknowledged, of what happens if a timetable starts getting out there and you don't meet it, and the reaction to that, and having to scramble around trying to either make it sound like it's not as bad as it is, or
Right. Was there a setback? Like, no,
right,
it's
exactly.
going slower. Like there's,
But
yeah.
With that being said, I believe it was Shams who reported last week that AD was going to be out until at least mid-January. I would be stunned if the last full week of January is the week of the 23rd. I would be stunned if he's back before then, because they're going to be cautious. That AD's history is not that of fast healing. And we're still at a place where they're getting more imaging being done, meaning there's still a lot about this that they're looking to figure out. And we have not even gotten to the pain-free portion of this process. So again, this is not based off anybody that I've spoken with, my knowledge of navicular bones, which, I had asked Brian how to pronounce it. I would be shocked if he's back earlier than 3 weeks from now. I'd be
because
very
it's
surprised.
a foot thing, right? That's part of it too. Like big
Foot
men and feet.
Right. Foot, ankle, it seems like basically everything ankle down, there's something to be monitored.
So if that's the case, Andy, we spent a lot of time going into December before the Lakers had this incredible run of road trips and difficult games. And we laid out what was in front of them at the end of November, before the Milwaukee game, when the Lakers were 4 games under 500. And I'd said, like, if they could kind of tread water through this, and by the way, Anthony Davis still playing when I was talking about these things. So, that imperative got even more challenging after the injury. I'm like, if the Lakers can basically tread water and be about where they were, or not much worse off at the end of December, which is essentially now at the end of this road trip, that's not a bad result. The Lakers were 4 games under 500 after the Portland game. They can be, if they win Monday, 5 games under 500. It's not ideal. You'd love for them to be better. And Lord knows, Andy, there were games in between that could have made this a very different conversation. But I'd love to get your thoughts next on where you think they stand now, if they can win this game tonight in Charlotte, heading into a slightly friendlier January with more home games. So we'll do that next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Prize Picks. Laker fans, if you have not signed up yet for Prize Picks, you are missing out on daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. The superstar players you can predict. You can also predict the bench players. Just take 2 to 5 players and predict whether they will notch more or less than their Prize Picks stats projections. And Prize Picks offers projections for everything from NFL to women's college basketball to even disc golf. Just use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. They offer safe, fast withdrawals. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. Sign up, play daily fantasy sports, and first-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match for up to $100 using the promo code Locked On. Again, don't forget that promo code Locked On at the sign up for that instant match. If you're not playing Prize Picks, you don't know what you're missing.
Okay, so in a perfect world, Andy, the Lakers could have made, as it turned out, certainly should have made a little bit more progress, um, in clawing back games from that gigantic pit that they have dug themselves. There's uh, the Philly game, the Boston game.
Charlotte,
What am I missing here in terms of stuff? The Charlotte game. Oh my God, that was terrible. There was one of the Sacramento games in there. No,
Indiana,
that was earlier than that. Indiana was in that
Indiana.
group. Like there are, even if you don't win all of them, all teams blow games that they shouldn't. But even if you know, take that into consideration, they could be in a much better position than they are now. That said, they could finish this road trip and essentially begin January 5 games under 500 after starting it 4 games under 500, starting the month 4 games under 500, which isn't a terrible result. That said, let's say they win. Let's say they finish, they come home to play Miami on Wednesday at 16-21, 5 games under 500. How much of that deficit do you think they got to eat up in January to realistically, because the Western Conference, which was helping them before, is starting to space out a little bit?
I mean, it is. The Lakers are still only 2.5 games out of the 10 spot, being held by Utah right now, which is starting to become the Utah that everybody expected them to be. The Timberwolves are in an absolute free fall right now. So there are teams ahead of them that are cooperating to some degree that, if nothing else, can help them get into the play-in situation.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, they got to start winning a lot of these games because they need to start actually making progress. Like if you want to say that what they've been doing right now is staving off the absolute worst and staying alive, okay, fine. I mean, that's true, but they've made no progress. And once you're in January, if you want to be serious about this, particularly as a team that's in a deficit, you need to start actually building something. And there is no more time for them to be taking 2 steps forward, 2.5 back, 3 steps forward, 3.5 back, and just not really getting anywhere, even if you want to give them credit for not having the bottom completely fall out. Like they need to start moving in a direction.
They do. And, it starts with games like tonight. Like if you cannot beat the Hornets, particularly after what happened to you on your home floor, the Hornets are not one of these, like, when they went to Andy, for example, when they played Orlando, the Magic aren't good, but they entered that game playing very well. So it's like, okay, sneaky. There's none of that going on with Charlotte. They're just bad.
No, they're not
They're
good.
like a regular bad team. They're just a bad team. And, and then you look at it and the Lakers are 8-8 at home. That's going to have to get better over the course of January. Or, I mean, I do feel like you're right. They've got to be at least 2 or 3 games over 500 this month to make February and March kind of even worth talking about.
Well, I mean, part of what's going to, when you talk about making February, March worth talking about, that is in part what happens at the trade deadline, what the Lakers decide to do. And, as much as there are some fans, some media, certainly LeBron, that want to see them make a move, and you can argue, I think very credibly, that they botched everything leading up to the season beginning, and they should have made a move before the season began. I certainly said that I thought they should have made the Heel Turner trade. I made that point many times, but they are where they are now. And you can only deal with where they are now. You can't retroactively fix what they should have done 4 months ago. And the reality is, if they are not in a considerably better position by the time January is starting to wind down, then frankly, I don't know why the team would do anything of real significance, because the odds of starting in February and getting on that type of a roll that quickly seems pretty small. And again, unless you are making a deal that is really about the following season and it's just about creating continuity now, and if something happens, great.
But
they certainly
yeah.
wouldn't give up any assets for anybody that's expiring that they don't expect to bring back. Like they're looking to keep their cap clean. Like that would be,
because like
that would be dumb.
Yeah, it would be, because like you're talking about the 10 seed, like because while they are 2.5 out of the 10, they're 3.5 out of the 9, chasing a Golden State team that's going to get better. If nothing else, Steph's going to come back at some point. And, so they'll start winning more games. I expect them to be a better second half team than a first half team. Phoenix ought to be better, I think, going forward. At some point, Devin Booker, hopefully, what'd they say? I think
He's
it was
gonna be
last
out a
one was a
while.
month. About a
At
month.
least a month. He's gonna be out a while. Like this is a bad problem.
It's a bad, but like, that they get him back in theory is kind of what I'm getting at. And even though like nobody's necessarily going to run away with it, and we're not talking about the Lakers trying to get, what you don't want to end up is a situation where the Lakers, to get into the play-in or try to get a home game in the play-in or something like that, have to win 9 of 12. They got to win 10 of 13 or something like that, and go on a win streak that kind of, if they were capable of doing it, they wouldn't need to go on the streak in the first place.
They'd have done it by now.
Yeah, exactly. To that though, in terms of finding the way to maximize all of this stuff, in addition to LeBron just doing crazy stuff on his 47, he scored 47 points. It wasn't his 47th birthday. On his 38th birthday, scoring 47 points. The Lakers have been using Troy Brown a little bit more. Juan Toscano-Anderson has found a space back in the rotation for 15 or 20 minutes a night, which I think is ideal for him. Don't want too much more than that, but you want to try to find the minutes to maximize. The hope is that Darvin can figure out this sort of ever-changing jigsaw puzzle of rotation members. It makes a difference if you can get something out of Troy Brown. He shot the ball pretty well over the last 3 games. It makes him far more playable and gives Darvin more options.
It does. But I also think in some respects, Darvin, like, I understand the idea of trying to put the floor combinations that you want out there in a way that you think forces the team you're playing against to react to you, as opposed to you reacting to what they want to do. But Darvin's, inclination to go smaller, which he has talked about the different ways that he thinks he can make defenses react to that, or that alignment on defense can create things for the offense.
Right.
It's clearly not working. And the guards that they have as a collection may be more skilled than the non-LeBron, non-AD forwards, sort of wings, and centers. Like, I will concede you that. But their guards are not good enough, particularly as shooters, and really not as defenders either, that I think you can force that advantage anyway. So in a lot of ways, I think Darvin would be better off actually trying to match up more against the opponent, even if it means leaving some of your quote-unquote more skilled players at times on the bench, or if nothing else, playing fewer of the guards in an effort to actually match up what's out there. Because too often, I think when he's, Juan Toscano-Anderson had been hurt for a while, but also JTA in a recent press conference acknowledged, like, some of it was just, he wasn't playing me. Like, and he's hoping to earn more of Darvin's trust, which it sounds like, hearing Darvin talk about him, he has, and he's gone hot and cold with Troy. And I think Troy plays better the more that he plays. Like, he's somebody that if you play him 10 minutes a night, I think you're going to be disappointed in what you get. He's somebody that I think needs to play 15, 20, 22.
And there are a lot of guys who are like that. He's not alone in that.
Right. They just need bigger guys, I think, in order to compete defensively the way Darvin wants them to. And, you mentioned, like, some of this has been Darvin forced to go here because Lonnie Walker's been unavailable. We don't know yet if he's going to be able to play tonight in Charlotte. And Austin Reeves, the last couple games, I don't know if it's lingering effects from the ankle or he's pressing and trying to do too much because of the situation they're in. Last 2 games, he's been awful. I'm like,
Mhm.
he's been at times borderline unplayable. And I think that has led to Darvin leaning on JTA or Troy a little more. And look, you need Austin to become better because Austin's a really important part of what this team does. But I hope that Darvin over these last few games has come to realize the value in playing some of these wing guys more, however imperfect they are. I think the
Yeah.
overall effect is better.
I wonder too how much of it is like, you talk about matchups. It helps. The Hawks are a terrible defensive team. And so the Lakers, for a lot of this game, sort of once they're the big rally, a
They're not a
strong.
great team right now, period.
They're
Atlanta.
not. I mean,
They're a
they're
mess.
7. They're 2 games under 500. They got a lot of names. They got a lot of people um,
Got a
that
lot of
people
drama.
know, and a lot of expectation that they're going to be good, but they're not actually playing that way. So the Lakers had that a nice push at the end of the second quarter. They had a great third quarter in Atlanta, but it helps that Atlanta's a really bad defensive team, and the Lakers weren't chasing points, and so context in games I think is also going to be a big. I wonder if in Darvin's mind too, sometimes it's a little easier for him to play the offensive, more limited guys, for whatever you want to call it, like in terms of JTA and in terms of Troy, when they're playing with a lead or at least
Probably.
even,
Sure.
and also when they're playing against teams that are lesser defensively. So the matchup could dictate it and slice it in a lot of different ways, including, are we behind or are we in front? Do we need to generate turnovers more? There's so much that goes into this. LeBron, I mentioned the performance. It's worth asking, like, how much of this can they get from him through January until Anthony Davis comes back? Because what we are seeing currently from LeBron, statistically speaking, is kind of remarkable. But as you have uncovered, Andy, there are signs that he still needs help. So we'll get to all that next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a great treat, but without all the fat and calories, then you got to try yourself a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know I could stand to eat a little healthy after the damage that I've done. And I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat, but you don't want to compromise taste. And that's why you got to try Built Bars. With Built, healthy is tasty. And it's perfect for your New Year's resolution to actually get yourself in shape. And as always, they're covered in 100% real chocolate and great new flavors, old flavors. You got your churro, you got your peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They taste like a candy bar, but with just 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar against 17 grams of protein. The protein is actually what you want. And you don't have to wait around anymore to get a box. For years, we've been telling you about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com, and you can still do that. It's great if if you're patient or don't have a car or whatever. But now you can also get them at your local Walmart in the pharmacy section. You do not need a prescription, or at a Sam's Club. Just making sure people understand this. You don't have to call your doctor first. Just go to the Walmart, go to the pharmacy section, and get yourself the Built Bars. Drop by either spot. Enjoy.
There was a point, Andy, earlier in the year, we were worried about LeBron, not like LeBron is falling off the end of the earth, wash king, but like, okay, how much more vulnerable is here? How much slippage is there? And how much do the Lakers need to compensate for that? And you look up now, and over his last 10 games, or the Lakers' last 10 games, I should say, he is averaging 33.5 points on 58% shooting to go along with 7 rebounds and 7 assists. He has pushed his field goal percentage for the season over 50%. So he's back over that 50% mark, which is basically where he is for his career. He is averaging 8 rebounds per game. He is averaging 6.5 assists. He is putting up numbers that, in everything but 3-point shooting, are remarkably similar to his career numbers. He is balling out as much as you could possibly expect LeBron to be doing that. How sustainable is this? Like, we talked about Anthony Davis, you said before like the last week of January, you'd be surprised to see him on the floor. Do you think LeBron can do this in enough games or pick and choose? Because this is how good he's got to play. Can he do that for another 3 weeks? Before Anthony Davis comes back, 3.5 a month.
Well, I mean, but before answering that, just put this in context a little bit more. During the Spectrum broadcast against the Hawks, Billy Mack noted that LeBron just became the leading scorer in NBA history on his own birthday in terms of just point totals for players on their birthday. I as Harrison Fagan
it's a monument to longevity as much as anything, but you still got to put some numbers up on those.
Well, as Harrison Fagan over at Silver Screen and Roll noted, it's also it's a monument and a tribute to research and just whoever found that stat. He also, in the second quarter of the game against the Hawks, accounted for 32 of the Lakers' 39 points.
Which is 2 points in the first quarter. Finished with 47.
Yeah. As far as whether or not it's sustainable, frankly, I don't want to find out. I think if we have to find out, we may have bigger problems than the actual answer. Because asking LeBron to go on that type of a heater for a month, that'd be a pretty big ask during his prime. Yeah. Much less where we are now.
The template is like the Orlando game. Wouldn't you agree? Where LeBron had a really good game against the Magic, but he didn't carry
a lot of help. Yeah, he had a lot of help. I think he can do it because LeBron is very good at picking spots. I think LeBron is very good at knowing how to turn it on where he can be really economical with killing it for, say, the last 4 to 5 minutes of a second quarter before going into halftime. And then he can allow his body to recharge during those 15 minutes or whatever halftime is. I think he's probably, his rotations tend to be, or his substitution patterns, I should say, tend to be very consistent because LeBron likes them very consistent, which means he's probably very cognizant of, okay, I'm going to be out in a minute and a half anyway for these next 90 seconds. I'm going to really turn it on. But there's a danger to this beyond just the toll that it plays on LeBron. There's also a trade-off in terms of the defense. And, the things that LeBron is very reasonably at age 38 not going to be able to do if he has to do that much orchestrating production at that level offensively. There's a trade-off that comes with it. And if he's going to be on the court that often, that like defense is the number one thing. You're going to have to account for that. So ultimately the answer, like I said, is I don't want to know. Because I think over the long haul, if we really have to see that, I fear it could be problematic.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you there. And there was, Brian Windhorst had a really interesting column up on ESPN.com that you can still find. And it was about how LeBron has generated his own points. Certain guys, you can, number you can look up, points generated off of assists from other players and this and that. LeBron has been remarkable in his ability to generate his own offense. I don't know if this includes the game in Atlanta, but he
probably didn't. The article came out, I'm pretty sure, before then.
Yeah, I think so too. But heading into that game, he has 8,705 unassisted baskets. That is of his 14,000. So certainly the significant majority is something that he's done. So like 60% of his buckets come without an assist. That got your interest though, in terms of looking at what that means now, because the eye test says that one thing LeBron does not do in the same way as he used to is just look at a guy at the top of the key and without a screen, break him down and get to the basket. Just be able to beat guys off the dribble easily one-on-one. That is not something the eye test says he can do as well anymore.
Yeah. This season, 47% of LeBron's baskets have been assisted, 53% unassisted. And as a comparison, during the championship season, the 2019-2020, 29% were assisted versus 71% unassisted, which, for context, 71% is high over the course of LeBron's career for unassisted. Like that, that's high against the norm, even for LeBron. But this season has been the lowest number of unassisted baskets for LeBron's career, and it's been trending in that direction with the Lakers. Like, it's broken down even further. Third highest number of assisted 2-point baskets in his career, and the second highest of threes. And then, like, the last thing I noticed in going through some of these numbers is in terms of the percentage of assisted 2-point shots that he's attempted. The 4 highest seasons that he has are either the first 2 seasons he was in the league or this one and last season. So you're talking about when LeBron was first in the league, still relatively speaking, learning NBA basketball, and had the worst supporting cast, or this year and last year where LeBron is at his oldest and also has supporting cast issues. So again,
Yeah,
I think it speaks to just the idea of help that he needs.
that to me is like it's funny you mentioned, like, because the thing that stuck out to me in this Windhorst article, he's got a list of all the guys who have assisted on LeBron's buckets, and D Wade has the most, 361 field goals assisted LeBron. 361 times he assisted on a LeBron field goal. Eric Snow is second. You go back to the Cleveland days that you're talking about when he was just a young guy. And so that makes sense. And Mario Chalmers is third on that list. Russell Westbrook, who has only played 111 games with the Lakers, not all of them with LeBron, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9th, 10th, I should say, on that list already. And that tells me that, in terms of, lightening that load of LeBron, the older player with a weak supporting cast, a lot of this really is falling on Westbrook, and the imperative for that relationship to work and that combination to work better than it has, at least historically, is critical to get through this month. So all eyes on Russ there. Were you surprised that he was that high on that list? I was.
Yes, I was surprised. If for no other reason than I just didn't think they'd played long enough.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking too. But it does. Russ piles up assists, and LeBron moves without the ball and wants to run. And so, Russ will find you on the break. Weird turnovers notwithstanding. Before we go, we do want to acknowledge this from a listener and somebody who follows us on Twitter, Piatto Vindice. I don't know if that's a username or his actual name at Beware Piatto. He noted that his father had passed the day after Christmas, and that he has been finding a lot of solace with friends through basketball. He was also quite kind. He noted that his father was a listener of this podcast. He listens to Anthony and Harrison and a lot of Lakers content, and that has helped him get through this time. And so we wanted to first of all just send our condolences to him and his family, but it also, to me, Andy, is just a nice reminder of sort of what sports can be for, generational bonds between a kid and the dad that might not otherwise have a whole lot in common. And that can be basketball, it can be art, it can be music, it can be food. And it's just, this is one of those things that can really tie people together. And so it's a reminder of that. And then obviously, our condolences to your family. But
and it's incredibly flattering to hear that.
Yeah.
So like Brian said, thank you and our condolences.
Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to find the show, and we'll see what happens. Andy, what do people say and complain that I always call these kinds of games that we see on Monday? Must win. It's a must win. We'll see everybody on Tuesday.